Hi, I'm Shaka Hislop, and here's Extra Time TV.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of EXTV Live. This is Andre Soklal. I hope you all are hearing me okay. I hope the audio is okay. I know this is, I usually do a reaction to the games. Everybody has been looking at the qualifiers so far and all the watch-alongs. I want to say a special thank you to everybody who looked at all the watch-alongs throughout our World Cup campaign and the Gold Cup. People from all over the Caribbean, Trinidad Tobago, Curaçao, Jamaica, UK, Canada. It's crazy. I was genuinely humbled by the support, and this entire new segment that I have from EXTV, the weekly episodes, is a result of everybody doing this. Now, usually I do this immediately after the game, but maybe a day afterwards. But it's a little bit difficult to put all these things together at the same time. But what I will do is, before I get started, the format is broken down into topics that everybody else chooses, and at the end, if time permits, I have a live Q&A segment that everybody else can join in. So we could do that. So you can join in a live stream and talk about your comments. Let's get straight into it. So the first topic we're going to talk about is Trinidad Tobago versus Bermuda reaction. So the first thing I'm going to talk about, we all know the campaign was over before the game went in. I had a IRL watch along. You can head over to Instagram on my Andre Soklal Instagram and EXTV, where you could see we tried something a little bit different. We were walking around the crowd and trying to show people how it is before the game. It was a lot of fun. But Trinidad Tobago, we were out. And the first thing I want to address, because while we're doing these streams, folks, we have all these scripts written up and all these things, ready to roll. And all of a sudden, news comes in. But apparently, there was a massive mix-up with the scoreline. So a lot of people in the live stream saw 2-1. You were with me in the live stream. We saw the goal that was disallowed for Bermuda, supposedly. And the stream ended with 2-1. But then all of a sudden, I started seeing all over the place it's 2-2. And in so the Concacaf live stream, and you all could go back and verify that if you want. And in the local media. And, of course, I was heading home from the stadium. I was trying to figure out what's going on. Why is it 2-2? And then the Concacaf live stream is saying 2-1. Well, apparently, there was a mix-up somewhere along the line, which I think is absolutely crazy. And I did get a media release while we were setting up to do the live streams. I'm going to pull this up really quickly if I can find it. Let's see really quickly. That's a good thing about being live, folks. Can't seem to find it right now. But clearly there was a mix-up. And, the goal, from what I saw, and I'm going to have to go back and look at the game, it seemed as if we were told by the commentators that the goal was disallowed, but apparently it was allowed. And I don't even remember seeing a kickoff, so I'm going to have to go back. So, folks, let me know what you think about that. We haven't even spoken about the technical aspects of the game and what took place. And there's lots of people who spoke about what took place in the game. It was not a great performance by Trinidad Tobago. I'm pretty sure Dwight Yorke was not happy. It was Kevin Molino's final send-off. We have a beautiful video with that on the YouTube channel. You could go there and check it out, where he gave his statements, both an official release from the TTFA and also, Roy, our camera guy for the day, caught up and, got some statements he did. And, I'd like to say a special shout out to Scully and also We Are Biased and the Interception Pod. Those guys have been awesome. We've all been collaborating and working together. So, that's the initial mayhem. We're not even talking about the football yet. But let's head into the actual stats. So I'm going to pull that up really quickly. Let's see. There's a lot of things here, folks. I'm going to try my best. So let's do this. Before I start, though, I want to ask everybody to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure to follow in the socials below. And I'm going to pull up the statistics really quickly. But as it stands, Trinidad Tobago ended up, according to this thing, on 6 points. Now, of course, I was going to do this. And I was going to do the whole, Trinidad Tobago initial reaction. But unfortunately, I was not sure about the information. I was actually not sure about the information at all. I was not sure if it was correct. And if we were on 9 points or whatever. I don't know. It was just it was all over the place. And even now, while we're doing this, I'm making sure my information is verified. So if there's moments in the stream where I'm pausing and I'm paying attention, it's because that's crazy that you can't trust what you're seeing on the screen. And I'm sure it's a mistake, it happens. But, the fact that the scoreline said 2-1, we're watching a watch along and it's 2-1 to me, is absolutely insane. I think it's honestly a little bit scary, if you ask me. I think personally that's something they need to look into because there's so much misinformation going on. So let's pull up really quickly the Bermuda Trinidad Tobago stats from the wonderful folks of SofaScore. Like I said, this is not going to be a great analysis. This is more a quick reaction. Kevin Molino as well, doing great to get his last game in there. Unfortunately, he would have liked to have ended it on a high. But the overall stats of Trinidad and Tobago, 67% possession, 33%, 22 shots on target, 10 for Bermuda, 5 versus 6 saves. The accurate passes, 191, the big chances, and 71. I'm going to leave this on the screen here because I want you all to see the metrics that matters. So we did create 2 chances and we got those 2 goals. Now this is saying 2-1. This is saying 2-1, right? I'm leaving this up so you all could see that's what was reported. But unfortunately, and I want to do a little bit more of a investigation into this, how there could be such a massive mix-up into this game. And the streamers in here, you can let me know what you're thinking about this right now. I'm genuinely baffled. A game of this stature. So like I said, folks, this is live. And I really don't know how to respond to this. But what I will say is everybody has their reactions. Everybody has their thoughts. What I will say is, forget the statistics aside because it has been finally reported as 2-2. So that's a whole different thing. So that's why I put those things before. And now I'm telling you that now it's 2-2. And the table, obviously, we're still third. And Bermuda, managed to get those points. But one of the things that concerned me was, one, I think perhaps the attitude overall, there was a little bit of complacency. I don't think these guys went in arrogant. And I'm not going to say that. I think, and Dwight Yorke probably was a bit disappointed. We're at a home game. We were creating a lot of chances. And once again, it reveals the problem that we have, that we are unable to finish chances. And I'll be honest, even though the stats say we got a boatload of chances, Trinidad and Tobago, we did not get the penetration. Yes, Dwight Yorke tried some different players in there. I was hoping he would have seen Mitchell, but I saw Nathaniel James playing in that false 9 position. And it once again highlights the lack of a number 9 we have. I still think overall that we played really well throughout the tournament, and it was pretty, it was okay towards the end. Like that game, and Dwight Yorke said it in his post-match conference, it was his worst game ever. So I'm not going to go into too much overall tactics in that particular game. But I have to say I was genuinely disappointed. And, Trinidad and Tobago, we quote-unquote dominated the first half. However, in the second half, momentum-wise, and I spoke about it in the live stream, you could see Bermuda grew in confidence. They were not dominating, but they were starting to get confident and create chances with the overlapping runs. They were creating chances. And before they got the first goal, there were signs. And what we thought was a disallowed goal, obviously, was not the case. Rods, what's up? Yep, no number 9. Yes, I know like this, folks, like I said, this stream, this is a weekly thing. I'm going to build momentum with the community as well. Like I said before I continue, everybody else, just continue to subscribe, like, comment. And, while we're talking, I'm going to load up the merch store because a lot of people are asking. So you could scan this according to this QR code here. You could scan and head over to our EXTV merch store. You could like, subscribe, follow all the socials. When you do and purchase stuff from the merch store, it goes towards us to help us to continue to do this. And it also goes towards charities as well. So it'll be massive support. Plus, you'll have some really cool gear. Rods, we need higher standards. Yes, and what we'll do is, folks, I'll go through the topics and then I'll answer the questions at the end. I'll take a couple minutes. So, like I said, I always commit to about 30 minutes. I'm going to try to get more efficient at this. But like I said, I'm doing this on my own skeleton crew, basically myself. And like I said, before I continue, we did have our prize winner, folks. Our first prize winner. Mark Molino, who turns out to be the cousin of Kevin Molino, a loyal fan of Extra Time TV since 2016 when we first started. And, we were just barely putting together videos with minimal tech to where we are now. And I didn't know that. So, he deserved it, even though it was a random draw. And you could check out on our social media the pictures. We're going to have a quick, we did a video with him. So, just as a reward. And I hung out with him. We ended up hanging out for the entire day. Or as we say in Trinidad and Tobago, we limed. And, it was great engaging, and there's real engagement with our fans. And we'll be having more giveaways, and as we get more partners and so on, we'll try to do that. And, we'll do that. So, folks, so we have our winner. And continue to like and subscribe. We'll have our other winners as well. And also look out for this. You're probably wondering what I have in this Adidas bag. And it's from Adidas Japan. So, my camera guy, Lawrence, brought me an item that I requested, which is the Argentina 2026 World Cup jersey, which I'll be taking a look at. Folks, I do reviews, so we'll be doing that. So back to the Trinidad and Tobago game, folks. I think overall it was a not a great performance. I don't know. The crowd was, honestly, I hate to say this, and I know some people argue, okay, why am I going to support Trinidad and Tobago in a game that's not important? But I really was disappointed that the crowd was really that small. I don't know if it was the rain, if people just... But this is a problem with Trinidad and Tobago fans. I'm not attacking, but I think it's something with our culture. I think we are used to disappointment. And, Trinidad and Tobago fans, once it's done, they didn't come. But I was amazed about how low the attendance was. And hopefully, we can change that. Because that is a massive problem with our culture. But back to the game. Bermuda, to their credit, Dick Advocat did a great job with Curaçao, and we'll get to that in a little while. But Trinidad and Tobago, there's so much we could talk about. I'm going to have a separate show about what now for Trinidad and Tobago. That's why I said it's not going to be an overly technical discussion. What now for Trinidad and Tobago? What do we do? A lot of people have been asking the question, do we keep Dwight Yorke? Do we get rid of him, which we'll discuss further down in the video? What do you think about the tactics overall? Do you think our preparation was correct? Of course, I have a personal peeve. Because every time a qualification cycle ends and we get knocked out of a competition, the usual suspects come out. And they all say the same thing. We have to revamp our roots football. We have to reevaluate. We have to discover our identity. We have to look at our development. We have to look at the administration. We have to look at blah, 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 blah. And the thing is, they're not wrong. Some of these people, I'm not going to say who they are, but they know who they are. They're a part of the problem. There's a lot of people in Trinidad and Tobago that, like I said in our last video, that do not care about Trinidad and Tobago football. They care about what Trinidad and Tobago football does for them. And as a result, which I think this was one of our better campaigns in a long time, maybe with the exception of Stephen Hart, and then that was cut short because of the change in politics. I think it's absolutely crazy that we are in that place where, we're back to square one. But I'm fed up of that same narrative. The same people who are there, continue to be there, continue to do the same thing, continue to say the same things and know what the problem is apparently, yet we don't fix it. Now, with me saying that, it's not going to be a typical ranting video. I think I did see a lot of positives. I saw a massive increase in the campaign in marketing. It's definitely not better, but still not where it should be. But it has definitely improved, in terms of, the pre-match activities and so on. Those things have been great. I think, getting Dwight Yorke in and the work he's done, not just the technical aspects, but, the ability to draw some positive attention to the team, attract friendlies because of his status and his connections and so on. I don't know all the details, but, Dwight Yorke brought back a little bit of a buzz, the performance of the players as well. But, in addition to all that, we have to continue and, have a continuity plan and build on this. Can we afford Dwight Yorke and all these things? We'll talk about that later on. That's honestly my reaction. But we ended up third in the group. We did not get to the playoff spot. Jamaica, which will be our next topic coming up, lost out on that qualification spot. So, folks, everybody in the live stream, everybody who's here right now, those of you who are joining in, I know this is a random stream. I usually do these on Wednesdays, but, I'll try my best to ensure that, I come up with these topics. But like I said, I don't want this to be overly technical. I would really like to have a lengthy discussion. I'll probably have Kenwin Jones on and we talk about my reaction. But I was disappointed in the final game. In terms of the overall campaign, I'll give it like a 6.5 to 7 out of 10, which is very generous for somebody like me. I think from a sporting perspective, we're heading in the right direction. From a marketing direction, we have improved. It's not perfect. There's a lot of people that do some very woeful promotions. It's bad. I think if it wasn't for the upsurge in fellow YouTubers like myself, tapping into the audience, I think it would not have done as well as it did. Like Scully, Interception Pod, all these other guys. A lot of people fed off that energy. So, folks, let me know what you think. For everybody who's just joining in the live stream right now, tell your friends, tell your family, tell everybody else to join in. If you're just joining in, it's not live, be sure to like, subscribe, comment, and share. Scan this QR code on the screen here because you could support with merchandise and so on. And, of course, folks, we're very close. I think we're less than 15 away from 3,000 subscribers. So small victories, folks. Help me get over the line. Help me get over the line, folks. It has been a very difficult journey, but, we'll continue. So, folks, we'll definitely have some more videos. And like I said, before I continue, we have these 4 topics, which I'll go through very quickly. And then at the end, I will answer your questions in the live stream as well. So keep those questions and comments coming. I'm going to answer them all. We also have the membership options. For those of you who have that option, you can support with donations if you want. And also, over here, we have some cool merch. I know a lot of people are trying to get onto it, so you could scan that and you can see our cool EXTV store. Obviously, it goes towards supporting us, but also towards charities. And, I will let as people know exactly what a charity is. We're all about transparency here. And once again, congratulations to Mark Molino. So, let's head to our next topic, folks. Our next topic. Steve McClaren. Yes, folks, Steve McClaren has resigned from the Jamaican national team. It's not new news. It's about 24 hours now since he announced it. And, it's not a big surprise. We had a very insightful discussion with Lance Whitaker. It was a huge honor to have him on both of our shows, and he'll continue to be there to give his insight. For those of you who don't know, which is crazy, this guy has been one of the main anchors for Sportsmax for years. And, he gave us some very accurate analysis about the Trinidad Tobago games and the Jamaica games. We have some previews as well you could check out in previous videos. And he highlighted to me, as well as the Jamaican viewers in here, and I hope you all are okay after the Hurricane Melissa, that the general consensus from the Jamaican public was that they were not happy. I thought from the very beginning, and Andre Samuel and myself, we were all scratching our heads. This is a team with a lot of great players, a massive talent pool, and I always thought that Steve McClaren, no disrespect to the guy, was a bit of a misfit. And many other people as well. It wasn't just me. It's not unique to me. It wasn't like, oh, you heard it here first. A lot of people raise their eyebrows. Like, I don't know if it's there's too much respect for, English coaches. I'm not disrespecting English coaches. Terry Fennick and these guys are my friends, great coaches. There are a lot of great English coaches. But I think in the Caribbean, we do have, and perhaps, I'm just guessing, and Jamaicans in the stream, you could let me know, a bit of a, perhaps over-reliance, overestimation of some of these guys. Now, no disrespect, this was the guy, and many people mentioned this as well. Steve McClaren was the guy responsible for England's failed Euro campaign. I think it was Euro 2008, maybe, if I'm not mistaken. He had I think his best run was maybe at Middlesbrough. But, this is a guy, he hasn't had the greatest record, and while he has experience, and sometimes that's what people use to sell their coaching, I think from the beginning, he did not seem to inspire confidence in the Jamaican players. We spoke about the 4-2-3-1. To draw at home to Curaçao, Dick Advocat was not there. They said he wasn't there for personal reasons. I don't know if anybody from Curaçao was in the chat. You could let me know why he was not there. But it was very, very disappointing for Jamaica. And I have to admit, I genuinely am confused about why, people were surprised that Steve McClaren didn't perform. I saw it coming, but I didn't want to be negative towards the Jamaican fans, and, maybe he was wrong. But, I just didn't know. So let's pull up his statement really quickly that he put from the Jamaica. I'm not going to pull out the entire quote, but let's hear what Steve McClaren had to say. Let me take off this thing really quickly. There's the QR code is in there. So it's courtesy beIN Sports. Over the last 18 months, I have given everything I have to this job. Leading this team has been one of the greatest honors of my career. But football is a results business, and tonight we have fallen short of our goal, which was to qualify from this group. It is the responsibility of the leader to step forward, take accountability, and make decisions in the best interests of the team. And, I'm guessing, maybe I didn't get my graphic right. But anyway. So, Steve McClaren. Steve McClaren, folks. That's a clip from a long quote that he took responsibility. I'm wondering, even while I'm doing this, folks, that's the amazing thing about these live streams. Even while I'm doing this, I'm being informed that obviously within the last day or so, Jamaica announced their new coach, which like I said, folks, we do these graphics before and scripts, and all of a sudden news is coming in. So Jamaica has announced that Rudolph Speed, am I pronouncing that correctly, is the interim. Well, he's going to be hired for the game. So let's pull that up really quickly. I'm going to get that from the website. So, folks, like I said, this is, if you're live, this is fully engaging stuff. So I'm pulling this directly from the source. I'm going to read it for you all if you all are not seeing it. Rudolph Speed, if I'm not mistaken, will lead the Reggae Boyz into their crucial Intercontinental World Cup playoffs next March. assisted by former senior Reggae Boyz assistant coach Miguel Coley. The Jamaican Football Federation confirmed Friday that Cavalier FC head coach and current chairman of its technical committee and director of local governing body will assume interim control of the senior men's national team beginning December 15th. His appointment runs through March 30th, 2026, covering Jamaica's build-up and participation in the Mexico-based playoff, which we'll get to in a little while, folks, series that will determine whether the nation advances to the 2026 World Cup. So, folks, wow. So, from my discussions with people from Jamaica and so on, and then just my quick research, obviously he's the coach of Cavalier FC, and SofaScore has been kind to support, supply us with some information, and he has been the coach there. And while we're speaking, folks, SofaScore, who's amazing, are sending us information about it right now. So I'm going to pull it up really quickly. Let's see what they have to say. But I know a lot of people are not happy with him. I think I read in an article where a lot of people described him as a long ball coach, a coach that does, they're not very happy as well. And I think even Rene Simoes, who took Jamaica to the 1998 World Cup, their first World Cup, I'm trying to load this up here, folks. I'm having a little bit of a hard time. But, he had some concerns about the coaching situation in Jamaica. So, according to SofaScore here, I can't put it up on the screen right now. But, his record at club level, I'm seeing 135 wins, 88% draws, and 86% losses, 309 matches. And, it's the goals under his tenure, 446 goals conceded, 331 titles, won 4. So, of course, I will do more research into Rudolph Speed, the coach of Cavalier FC. And I'm as shocked as everybody. I would love to hear from Jamaican fans, and we'll probably have Lance as well telling us what he thinks about this appointment. Like I said, this wasn't part of the script. This was not part of the script. We were not going to talk about this. But let's pull up some of Steve McClaren's stats. So Steve, according to SofaScore, I'm going to have to rearrange where I put this QR code. He had 8 matches for Jamaica. As you can see here, numbers don't lie from SofaScore. 5 wins, 2 draws, and a loss. And boy, were those results crucial. He had a point percentage of 71%. In terms of attacking, according to SofaScore, shots on target per match, 15. Goal difference, 15 versus 3. Ball possession, 56%. And an overall SofaScore rating of 6.99. And, it's not a bad record on paper. But, those matches, that loss and draw against Curaçao has I think with all the players that Jamaica had, I could understand why Jamaica fans are very upset with this guy. I've seen some very, very passionate videos and reactions from Jamaican YouTubers and personalities. Even the video we have with Lance Whitaker, which you could check out where we did our match preview. Lance foreshadowed this, and he echoed the sentiments of the Jamaican fans that, they were not happy with this guy. And, unfortunately, it's something that it would be a shame, because I think this Jamaica team is strong enough to get to their second World Cup, and it's not out yet, and we'll talk about that in the next topic with the World Cup playoffs, so we'll go into that. But, they have to play. It's in Mexico. There's a lot of factors in the past. It used to be a one-game playoff, but we'll get into that. So, folks in the live stream, let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about Steve McClaren's comments. What do you think about his stats? I think I know what that answer is going to be. And what do you think about his replacement, Rudolph Speed? Like, I don't know much about him outside the stats, and I know Cavalier, the team as well. But I'm worried for Jamaica, because I think I saw players like Leon Bailey and many others talking about they're not very happy with how the Jamaican Federation does things. The decision seems like a strange one. And if you think another coach should be in there, although it's a done deal already, who you thought should have been the coach? And Jamaica, which is, like I said, I think I'm asking an answer here. Are Jamaica fully utilizing the talent pool they have? Because in Trinidad and Tobago, we're always talking about building the talent pool. And I think it's a similar problem, because, you could have the talent pool, but if you have the wrong people in the administration doing dumb things, you won't get the results. Like Jamaica, at the beginning of the campaign, I put Curaçao and Jamaica as my 2 favorites. To be fair, I did say Curaçao because of Dick Advocat and my research into how they were doing and just following them. I did tip them as my favorites to go through, and in this particular case, I was correct, but I did say it would have been very close with Jamaica, and then I really thought maybe they would have turned things up. But McClaren just was not able to get the best out of this team. He was never the right fit for me. And I think maybe the over-reliance, and I say this with respect, English coaches, sometimes we have in the Caribbean this emphasis to love everything that's English. Now, I'm not disrespecting English coaches. There are good English coaches. But I'm just saying, sometimes we think, this is a coach that did not have the greatest record. Even at club level, he was okay. He was an okay English coach. But I mean, to coach at that high level does command a certain amount of respect. I just felt as if maybe they thought it was enough, and clearly it wasn't. So folks in the live stream, let me know what you think about that. What do you think about his performance? I personally think, it was unsurprising what took place. And, it's just scary. It's absolutely scary that Jamaica could not make it. So folks, like I said, like, subscribe, share, comment. We're almost at the 3,000 mark. Keep the comments coming. At the end, I will answer a couple questions because it's Saturday, folks. I know people are out there and hanging out. And I want to go relax, but I want to spend my Saturdays with you guys. And I will be having this show every week. So like I said, like, subscribe, and scan this QR code right now. It's over here, sorry. To support our channel, we have merch. You could also join the membership panels for the international viewers as well. If you want to donate, you can. Because this takes a lot of work, folks, and I love doing it. And you guys have made the channel really improve, and we want to head to that 3,000 subscriber mark and continue going and continue your engagement. And like I said, folks, at the end I will be answering every comment in the live stream. This is live, folks. There's no editing. Of course, I do plan the scripts before. You all choose the topics. We did have our first prize giveaway. Congratulations to Mark Molino. We'll be having others as well. So continue to do that. Not just Trinidad Tobago jerseys, but also jerseys of your choice for your club or country. We will do that. So continue to do that. So I'd like to say a special thank you to Mitra and Sportway for supplying that jersey for us. It was very difficult to attain them, but they did that. And we got those 4 signatures. So Dante Seeley, Andre Raymond, Kylie Ovre, and who was the 4th one? Jaren Jackie. Thank you for signing the jersey. You made Mark Molino's day. So let's move to the next topic, folks. The playoff spots. So now, folks, it's not a big secret that the World Cup is going to be different this time. We have a lot more teams. And of course, getting to the World Cup, which is what we spoke about in great detail before, was one of the objectives of all the small islands. And it's definitely, in some cases, it's easier. But now we have all these playoff spots. Even while I'm doing this, I'm reading that Nigeria, it was reported that they were knocked out, but now they have a chance. So we'll probably talk about that in the next show. But Jamaica. So let's take a look at their playoff statistics here really quickly. So let me get that for you guys. I'm going to load it up. Wow, I'm doing this by myself is really tough, but I'm going to do it. Where is it? There we go. Let's pull it up here. So these are the playoff spot brackets broken down by SofaScore for us, simplified. So Bolivia, which is in the CONMEBOL Confederation, have to play Suriname. And of course, the winner of that game has to play Iraq. So, of course, a lot of people are saying, well, Bolivia are the favorites, but we don't know. It's funny because Suriname is part of South America, but they're not part of that confederation, which is crazy. So Bolivia is a team that relies heavily on the altitude and so on. So, away from home, it's going to be in Mexico. I don't know if it's at high altitude. I actually don't know where the games are being played. Bolivia may or may not have an advantage. And, Suriname, you never know. Iraq, I think, is a very strong team, a very passionate team. A team that I think could cause a lot of problems if they do get to the World Cup. But of course, let's talk about our region, which is the Concacaf region. Jamaica has to take on New Caledonia. And the winner of that has to play Congo, obviously from the AFCON. Now, folks, this is not an easy pathway. New Caledonia is from the Oceania region. Now, I could say, generally, as you can see on the screen here, New Caledonia, on paper, supposed to be easy. I'm seeing here from my news here, and even from the comments, Guadalajara, Monterrey. So, it's interesting. I spent about 6 weeks there with the women's national team in Monterrey, and I did adjust pretty well. I actually got COVID there, which is it's crazy, when we were playing with the women's team. And, it was interesting adapting to the lower oxygen levels. So that'll be interesting. So that will definitely favor Bolivia. But for me, I didn't play, but it was, it was definitely tough. And the temperature and so on, we'll see how that goes. So we'll see. As for New Caledonia, I could say on paper that New Caledonia would be, quote-unquote, on paper, a team that Jamaica should get by. But with all the chaos surrounding Jamaican football, who knows? Who knows if they're going to get the preparation right? All the Jamaicans in here, a lot of people are telling me how that they're not very happy. Not just with Steve McClaren, we know that already, but the appointment of Rudolph Speed. Am I pronouncing that correctly? I'm not sure. So we'll see. It's not a foregone conclusion at Jamaica. And like I said, no disrespect to Caledonia. I admittedly I'm gonna have to do some research into them, and of course they're gonna have to play Congo. Folks, there are no easy teams in that AFCON region, folks. A very overlooked confederation, highly competitive. We had the former Trinidad Tobago coach there and a regular contributor to this channel, Thompson Feet there, and he's a guy with great insight, and we'll talk to him. In fact, we'll probably have him on, and that's great that we have all these people giving us this information. So there it is, folks. As you can see, Bolivia, the winner of the Bolivia-Suriname game takes on Iraq. Jamaica, who is our representative in this particular case, have to take on Nicaragua. And the winner of that game takes on Congo. So, folks, we'll have to keep our eyes on that, folks. Definitely we'll have to keep our eyes on that. So, like I said, before I continue, be sure to scan the QR code, over here with the merch. And also, there's links below if you want to support the channel and subscribe. And I just saw St. Elizabeth family has subscribed. We are heading closer to the 3,000, folks. I think we're probably just about 11 away from 3,000. So small victories. Small victories, folks. So like I said, that's the pathway for Jamaica for the World Cup playoffs. I will look at the other teams, but because I'm from the Concacaf region, I'm going to look at our Jamaican family as well. And we want them to get there. I mean, I don't know. I love that, there's a lot of love in the live stream and the supporters from all around the region. We've expanded with the viewership all around the Caribbean, and we're always, like I said, I'm going to read all the comments and I'm going to pay attention to all the suggestions and thoughts you all have. You all have a lot of feedback on what I talk about on the show. I mean, it's primarily a football show and so on, but we'll talk about that afterwards and we'll head to that. So folks, let me know what you think about the playoffs. What do you think about Jamaica's chances of getting to the World Cup? You've seen the bracket. I will talk about the other teams as well. Let me know your thoughts. Drop those comments. Drop it in the live stream as well. Follow all the socials as well. Follow me on my personal Instagram at Andre Soklal, because when you do that, you automatically qualify for prizes, and we will be giving away more prizes as well, folks. So stay tuned for that. So we're going to head over to our next topic, folks. Our next topic, heading back to Trinidad and Tobago, Dwight Yorke. So some people saying I should have started with this, but Dwight Yorke's performance at Trinidad and Tobago. So I've said repeatedly, I'm very okay with Dwight Yorke's performance. We did end the campaign, not, I would consider, on a high point. I think, I spoke about this previously in the stream, but I think it's absolutely crazy. There was a mix-up on the live stream for those of you who are joining in here. It showed 2-1. The commentator said the goal was disallowed on the screen. Final score, 2-1. I should have done a screenshot for you guys. Then all of a sudden, I'm seeing 2-2 all over the place. So apparently, which is a massive foul-up, the goal was allowed, so I don't know how the miscommunication took place, and the game was 2-2. Of course, Nathaniel James getting what I thought was the winner, but it was an equalizer, and it was reported by many people, which is absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. Trinidad and Tobago, whatever. So we're going to talk about Dwight Yorke here really quickly, and I'm going to pull up the standings quickly here. I want to put up the accurate standings. In fact, before I get to that, let me load up the other stuff here as well. Like I said, folks, this is live. We are live. So there we go. I'm pausing for a second here. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to pull up Dwight Yorke stats. So let's do that. Let me take off the QR code. I will fix that soon. Next 30 years Jamaica. Oh gosh, don't say that. We'll talk about that in a little while. So like I said, courtesy the lovely folks of SofaScore. Listen, folks, they give us immaculate detail, folks, and we'll have someone from SofaScore to break down some of these stats as well. So he had 2 wins, 2 draws, 4 losses, 8 matches, points percentage 42%, shots on target per match 17. We did create a lot of chances. Goal difference 14 versus 10, ball possession 54, and overall rating of SofaScore. I'm going to leave this up for a couple seconds, because in the actual qualification, we lost only to Jamaica. We lost to Jamaica. We drew with Curaçao. And, like I said, the reason why I left those stats up, because there's a lot of conflicting statistics. Because a lot of the global sites are reporting that, you know, they still have the score where we won the game and the draw as well. But, you know, Trinidad and Tobago ended up with 7 points in the end. And I put that graphic, I'm not going to put up the group standings here because the initial report said, you know, we won. But eventually in the end, we ended up with 7 points. Earlier in the video, you will see that the original graphic was wrong. And I put that up on purpose to show you how much of a mix-up it was. But let's, you know, Dwight Yorke as well, you know, got that draw against Bermuda. The 2 draws against Curaçao. You know, Jamaica, we drew as well. You know, it's to me, it's absolutely crazy. To me, it's absolutely crazy that we got all those draws as well. Folks, I personally think we should keep Dwight Yorke. I personally think we should keep Dwight Yorke. Now, there's a couple questions we have to ask here. That the first question I want to raise is performance. We'll have 4 categories, I guess, and I will break them down. The first one is performance. How has the team performed? And I would say, even though we did not qualify, I saw a progression and growth from the team. I saw an improvement in our defense. At the beginning of the campaign, we were terrible at defending and defending set pieces. We were losing aerial balls. A lot of the 50-50 balls we were losing. And these are very simple, you know, technical aspects. Our ability to hold possession and, you know, create in the middle and balance games was really poor. I saw a massive improvement in that. Our chance creation improved a lot. Our defensive record improved a lot. And unfortunately, then one of the main metrics that killed us in the end was the goal scoring. We did not score goals. Now, the question you'll have to ask yourself, is that enough of a metric to say get rid of Dwight Yorke? Because I know a lot of people have been saying, and like I said, folks, drop it in the comments here, you know, get rid of Dwight Yorke. And they're already saying bring in these coaches and so on and whatever. And I say, you know, that's my counter argument for that. You know, even with Angus and other coaches before, like I think, you know, but with Dwight Yorke, we're talking about Dwight Yorke. I think we should keep him because in addition to the technical aspects, and this is his second point, Dwight Yorke brings with him, it may not be experience the way people think in terms of years with a national team, but that European experience and his staff as well. You know, these coaching staffs are very key for getting results. The analysts, the coaching staff he has behind the scenes, the ability to analyze teams. You know, he brought in some guys as well who I thought did a very good job. I thought they did a very good job, and I'd love to do some interviews with these guys because I'm an analyst as well. I did it with the women's team and a couple other teams as well, so I appreciate them. So I'm a little bit biased. But, you know, you saw the results on the field, so they were doing something right. You know, in the end, you know, the goal scoring problem was Dwight Yorke, and he was always very forthright and honest. There was no games like, you know, some coaches before would, you know, try to be a little bit too cheeky in the press conferences. And, you know, Dwight Yorke, I think, was very straightforward. He would say, you know, was very open. And, you know, I think he should stay on, you know. The third category, because the first one I said was performance. The second one, I think, is, you know, just, you know, the staff he has. You know, the third one for me, I think, in addition to all these things, is the financial aspect. So, some financial perks are Dwight Yorke being Dwight Yorke, you know, the treble winner with Manchester United, a globally recognized icon, a legend for Trinidad and Tobago football. He brings a certain amount of excitement to the national team, an interest that was not there before. No disrespect to the other coaches. You know, he is a brand in his own right, like Brian Lara and Bravo and those guys. And he brings that to the team. And I'm sure they took that into consideration when they hired him. And all coaches need to understand that that's part of the game now. Whether you like it or not and you're old school, it is what it is. You are a brand. Yes, the football does the talking at the end of the day, but it is what it is. And that overall package has re-attracted people who are probably skeptical about Trinidad and Tobago and started that first step into re-establishing the trust that corporate Trinidad and Tobago lost with the Trinidad and Tobago football team, with all the past corruption and so on, to be honest. And, you know, it's all over Netflix, of whether what your opinions on that, you know, whatever people say, I would love to hear that. But in addition to that, there's a flip side to that. Does the TTFA generate enough revenue and support to pay his salaries? I don't know the details of his salaries. I only heard rumors, and I'm not going to repeat hearsay. But Dwight Yorke, I'm sure he has a hefty sum. His staff probably has a hefty sum. I know it's not. I'm pretty sure he took a massive pay cut to play for the national team. And I know a lot of people were complaining, crying about Terry Fennick's salary. His salary is honestly, folks, very small that Terry Fenwick was getting by international standards. So, just for perspective, folks, back then, which I personally think that, he was not given a fair chance. I just think he's a very divisive figure. He speaks his mind. A lot of people just didn't like him. That's my opinion. And like I said, folks, there's another problem with Trinidad and Tobago football. If you disagree and you have a different opinion, it doesn't mean you hate that person. And we need to stop that. There's people in Trinidad and Tobago football, and you all know who you are. If you have an opinion and you heard an opinion, you would come and be like, well, I heard you said X, Y, Z, so therefore we are enemies now. No. It's a discussion. Grow up. And these are people within the fraternity, folks. So, that's a real problem I have with Trinidad and Tobago in general, you want people to praise and sing your praises and not say things. And of course, there are some people who are ridiculous and are just negative for the sake of being negative. But if you have people who are having constructive conversations, that's a level of immaturity that we need to work on in our media, both in the media and in the sport fraternity. That's the thing. Can we afford to keep Dwight Yorke? That is the question. Can we keep Dwight Yorke? And that's something, the TTFA is going to have to discuss. And, we have the Concacaf Nations League. We have, the possibility of playing in Copa Americas and so on. So we have regional tournaments and benchmarks. It's not just about only getting to the World Cup. Now, I've spoken to some players, and because our resources are thin, some are saying, forget all these small tournaments. It's financially very difficult. And I understand that argument, but I think at the same time, we need as much high-quality friendlies as possible. So, there was a fourth thing. I can't remember what it is now. But those are my thoughts on why we should keep Dwight Yorke. I think the performance, I hate to say this, but, overall in terms of a ranking, I would give him like a 7.5 out of 10. And I'm very harsh with my ranking. 7.5 is very high. I think it's a result-oriented game and he should continue. Once they can financially afford it, they can do it. We have to fix some things behind the scenes. There are people that should not be there that are still there, that are very crappy at their job. And I'm not talking about the coaching staff. And other YouTubers will talk about it. There's a lot of people who have been in football for years singing the same old song about what we need to change. And they are also a part of the problem and they know who they are. We need to, but also we have to understand we have to get this change that we want. We need to change. Make the changes. Come on. We have to do that. It is that simple. So, barring drastic results, and us, with a calamitous drop in form, because we could see how quickly it could change, like especially in that last game against Bermuda with the conflicting score lines. It's crazy that the team could have such a drastic form. There's a lot of things we have to work on, and barring in financial issues or just bad results, I think we should keep him on. I think he has a couple months left on his contract. So like I said, folks, let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about that. I know, and I like I said, folks, there's some people that don't like him as well, and that's okay. And I'm seeing that in the stream, and I'll get it. If you have your opinions about why you think he shouldn't be there, that's okay. That's okay. Let me know who you think should be there, why you think he should not be there, and who you think the coach should be. That's okay. This is a discussion. We can disagree. And if you think otherwise, I want to hear it. I want to hear it. My opinion is not set in stone. I have my reasons why I think so. But if you don't think so, that's okay as well. Football, has it's subjective as well. We can have these discussions. So I know some people, it's very mixed. And you could let me know your thoughts pro and against. For real. So, folks, we're going to head to the Q&A segment of EXTV. So this is where I take a couple minutes, and it always ends up around about 40 minutes anyway. So it seems like that's the usual thing. So like I said, folks, we had the 4 topics in there. For those of you, if you go back, you will see I was mentioning the inconsistency of some of the data we were getting because the Bermuda game reported 2-2. And, the game was 2-1, and it was crazy, and there was a lot of results, and it was just insane that, there was so much chaos in that Trinidad and Tobago Bermuda game. It was crazy. And like I usually do a quick reaction after the game, but I was actually at the stadium, so it was a little bit difficult. So we're going to head to the Q&A segment, folks. So all the streamers in here, like I said, everybody in here, we're very close to the 3,000 mark of subscribers. So everybody in the live stream, I'm going to ask you all, send this to your friends and everybody else. Like and subscribe. We're very close. I think we're just about 11 away from the 3,000 mark. So small victories, folks. The overall aim is to get to 100,000, folks. And I think you guys have done a great job of getting me in the last couple of months. EXTV has had its highest, volume of, support in the last couple of months on the CPL and so on. So, we will, I'd like to say a special thank you to everybody who continues to support and all the new people that are joining in. Like I said, this is a weekly thing I'm going to do. I usually do it on Wednesdays, but it was just a little bit too tough to get this done. And, everybody had their reaction. So I just gave a more emotional reaction at the top of the screen. And like I said, I make clips within episodes for those of you who don't have time to listen to the entire thing, or if you're cruising in your car on the highway in traffic, I'm hoping my voice could calm you down and we could talk some football. And like I said, it is fully interactive. This is not pre-recorded. You could all join in. Continue to like, subscribe, follow us on all these socials. Also, you could scan this code that just popped up here on the screen, where you could purchase EXTV merch that goes towards supporting the channel. It's delivered globally. Some cool hoodies and cups and all this cool stuff that I designed myself. Folks, I'm a multitasking man, folks. Okay, well, yeah. So I designed it. And, continue to do that. Now, of course, also we have, the membership option for the super chats and so on for those who want to supply and make donations and get exclusive content. We have interviews, analysis, esports, cricket, and also, very, live streams where we have the IRL streams where people come into the studio and we just chat. Kenwin Jones and, very big personalities and, in Indian industry. It's not just this rigid sit down and let's do interviews and, also as we call it in Trinidad Tobago, it's not just rum shop talk, but real life engagement. You all choose the topics. You all ask the questions, and we want to continue to grow this community. If you're not watching live and you're just joining in afterwards, we really appreciate the support. So like I said, like, subscribe, share, click the notification bell in the under the title below as well to continue to get notified when we have new notifications as well. Scan the QR code as you're seeing on the screen here to purchase merch if you want. We'll continue to have the giveaways. Congratulations to Mark the Shark. We hung out for almost an entire day, folks. So it was great to interact with the fans, and I'll probably do that with the next winner as well. And, we will be having other giveaways as well. And also, I have this mystery Adidas box from Adidas Japan. My cameraman brought this. Stay tuned. I'll be advertising in our socials what I'm going to be talking about in that as well. So like I said, we did give away the Trinidad Tobago jersey with the signatures for Mark Molino. So congratulations to our winner. We do have, we'll have a little clip of Mark as well coming up soon, so you can take a look at that interaction. And, I really enjoyed that. I really did. And, I'm enjoying this interaction now. So we're going to head to the questions now, folks. So I'm going to scroll up a little bit because there's a whole bunch of them. So I'm going to go all the way down. So I'm going to go... So Damian Oliver, 6913, we need Jack Warner. Folks, we all know the story about Jack Warner. I would love to chat with him one of these days, but it's well documented what took place. He maintains he wants to get back into Trinidad and Tobago football. We'll see, folks. We'll see. We need Jack Warner. Conrad Smith, tears, everyone. Yeah, welcome, Conrad Smith. Yep, I am sad face. I think they said something. So this is, I think Ronald KB, welcome back. I think you're talking about Dick Advocat not playing. I think they said something about his wife having a heart attack. My goodness, I didn't know that. So, my thoughts go out to anybody who's having these situations as well. I know this is a football show, but, these things transcend the game. And, I hope she's okay. And I hope, Dick Advocat and everybody and his family are okay. And I'm sending positive thoughts to him and his family and hope his wife recovers. Because these things are very serious. Folks, take care of yourselves. Eat healthy. I do encourage it. Mark could testify. He saw me. I'm trying my best. I'm not perfect, but I eat healthy. So thanks for that verification there. From Jason Kava 7342. So like I said, folks, everybody in the live stream as well, if you haven't subscribed as well, continue to do that. It helps the channel and purchase merch and all that. Rondell KB. So he actually has a good record. I'm guessing you're talking about Steve McClaren, maybe, because I'm going back in the chat there, folks. Conrad Smith, 575. We go Trinidad for education. Speed. I don't want to misinterpret what you're saying there, so you could probably explain further down. I'm trying to catch up with the live chat now. Josh XY3TD. I wonder if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Jamaica not going to the World Cup. I hope they do. I really hope they do. I mean, it seems like Jamaicans are not positive about that at all. And they do have to play Caledonia, and the winner of that match is Iraq, if I'm not mistaken. No, not Iraq. Congo. So we'll see how that goes. Bert Ashton, Folks, also let me know where you're from in the stream when you send the comments. I'm on record on your show saying every 4 years Jamaica is a big team that never make it. Yes, I see that myself as an outside Trinidad Tobago fan looking. You know, I have a lot of respect for the Jamaican team. And now I'm understanding, you know, the frustration you all have, like we have as well in Trinidad Tobago, with some of the decisions that are being made. I do understand from what I've been hearing from, you know, Lance Whitaker. You know, the general consensus that a lot of Jamaicans like Dwight Yorke. And you all probably wish, and it's interesting enough, Dwight Yorke did put himself for the position. He put himself up for contention for the Jamaican spot, and in hindsight, perhaps it would have been a better hire. But we'll know. You know, we'll see how that turns out. And, you know, Speed as well. Is that his name? I don't know. I don't know much about him, but from what I'm seeing here in my quick research, you know, it's not, people are not happy with that. I think Jamaica just went with the safe choice, but you know, who else could they have picked? Let me know. Let's see, we're going on. Ron Hewitt, 9747, more trouble. Speed, biggest failure. Wow, okay, so once again, you know, I'm assuming you're from Jamaica as well. And folks, we got a lot of love from Jamaica. A lot of people are not happy with Speed. You know, so that's interesting. Rising up 2778. It's disappointing for Trinidad. Yorke is not qualified for the World Cup. I'm guessing, I'm reading as I'm seeing it. Neither we keep spinning top in mud. That's a real Trinidad Tobago expression. Basically, going around in circles. Trinidad need a good coach, spend money to make money. Yes, and I did highlight that in previous videos. You know, we have a lot of problems. Financially, we're not in a great place. You know, the normalization committee claim we're out of that debt, I think, that we amassed from all the years of corruption. I personally think there's a lot of people that need to get out of Trinidad Tobago football, and they latch on like a parasite and they're not leaving. And there's some good people in Trinidad Tobago football, and there's a lot of good things as well. I'm not just saying that for the sake of doing it. So hopefully in time and progression, the right people get in there and we start getting the results. Because I said this in one of my live streams. There are people that care about Trinidad Tobago football, and there are people that care about what Trinidad Tobago football can do for themselves. You know, getting those free plane rides, sitting in the VIP section going around when we're already out of the tournament, being all smug and walking around and acting. And these people are always there. They've been there for the last campaigns. And they know who they are. They go around and they're very smug and condescending. You know, they are mainstays in Trinidad Tobago football. If you dare criticize them, they're upset. But they're still there. You know, it is what it is. Who evaluates them? But there are some good people in there as well. I like the actual Trinidad Tobago staff right now, the coaching staff, saying that right now. So moving on, Rods, Yorke worked with what he had. A lot of the guys are not technically proficient. Let's be very honest about what we saw. And Rods, what I will say is, in terms of evaluation, we don't have players in the top leagues, but we do have the foundations for creation, in terms of at least with the senior pool for Trinidad and Tobago. You know, they were able to unearth some players and get some performances where maybe they can get into bigger clubs. Now, there's so much factors. Kenwin Jones mentioned this on the live stream when he was here, and we'll probably have him on next time. About there's so many factors. You know, we have to be in the top 100 if we have to get into the major leagues, especially the Premier League, and, you know, a certain amount of caps. There's a lot of rules, folks. But, you know, Dante Sealy, Tyree Spicer, you know, these guys have been performing great. We all know about Levi Garcia, Nathaniel James. You know, we do have those players as well. Kylie Aubrey, some exciting attacking players. Rio Cardines, who has been my personal favorite. Smith, great goalkeeper. Marvin Phillip, although he stepped down, was, you know, great. But, you know, I think Denzel Smith, we've always produced, I think, very good goalkeepers. John Michael Williams and so on. You know, centre backs, there's been an improvement. Kobe Henry and so on. You know, so I'm seeing improvements. But, you know, how do we build and continue this? This is where our youth system has to work. There's a lot of players that get lost in the youth system, which is an entire topic. And we have all these technical directors and so on, you know. What's going on? You know, we've had these discussions before. So now we're moving down. Like I said, I'll probably do this for a couple more minutes, folks. Why can't I scroll down my chats here? Let me try to do that really quickly. I'm trying to get back. Oh, there we go. There we go. So, where were we? So, Bert Ashton, will you expand your show, please? So cricket, CPL, NBA, and UFC, etc. The plan is, I have done some expansion. So that's a great question. And this is what we want. We want this kind of feedback. So it's primarily a football show. That's what built us up in the beginning. We're a niche show when Kevin and myself started in the beginning. And, we spoke about football and we wanted to highlight areas like in Central and South America and in the Caribbean and other people don't. And not just do the rum shop talk and, fanboy talk, but, really have that little line between quality discussion and analysis, but also not being boring. And we have expanded to the CPL. We have lots of CPL content. We have covered the CPL progressively for the last 2 years. I've worked in the CPL for the Trinidad Tobago Knight Riders, so those years I couldn't cover. But last year, and in particular, there's a lot of content. We have access. We actually got permission to do watch-alongs, so I will be doing watch-alongs at the stadium, which I didn't get for the Trinidad Tobago games. I will do it at the CPL. So we have a lot of content and interviews and, speaking with players and post-match conferences. Also on extvmedia.com, we had Vidya Ramphal giving his insight. So we have expanded to the CPL and esports. For the NBA and UFC, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But that's an interesting thought and we'll look into it. But, my primary area of expertise is football and I'm an analyst. And of course we have expanded into esports. We have a lot of content coming up. With that, we have like matches with celebrities and so on, and we may probably host an esports tournament, which we could broadcast for all the fans, and we could probably have people around the islands, and that's something we're working on. So we'll do that. So I really appreciate that. So Burton Ashton, that's a great question. So folks, like I said, if you're just joining in, be sure to like, subscribe, scan the QR code for merch and support. And we have donations now if you want to donate to the channel, because it takes a lot of work to do this, folks. So, Kingley, welcome back, Kingley. Big up to everyone. Kingley's a loyal supporter. So welcome. Rondell, agreed. I will admit he has improved the team a lot, but for the life of me, I cannot understand why he insists on playing Levi Garcia. So I'm as a lone striker. So obviously you're talking about Dwight Yorke. I think it's due to the lack of options and trying, to be a little bit inventive with that false nine thing, which Pep made famous. But to be fair, folks, a lot of people said Pep made it famous, but it's actually done by other coaches in the past. Luciano Spalletti, the Italian coach, did it with Roma many years before. He actually played Francesco Totti in that false nine position. And at the time, a lot of people were talking about how Roma was playing without a striker. And, of course, it was made popular, obviously with Lionel Messi scoring all those boatloads of goals at Barcelona. But, it's a very interesting tactic. But I think it's a testament to how we're lacking number nines in that position. And I think, he tried Mitchell, he tried Obiku, and I guess he's not happy with them. But, that's why you need friendlies and so on and international games to prepare for the next cycle. And our development and our technical teams and our development program needs to step up their game. And, have a identity. I've heard people talk about that. We have to... Hopefully this is the beginning of that. So yeah. Rondell, that was a complete waste of time, in my opinion. I'm not sure what you're talking about because I'm catching up with the chats. Mark the Shark, welcome, our prize winner and one of our most loyal fans amongst others. Mark, welcome. What's the vibes, Andre, and to everyone? Welcome, Mark. I can actually hear you saying that now, Mark. Now that I know your voice and I've heard your face. I hope you had a good time, Mark. We'll be putting up Mark's video. He was the winner of our random draw. And it turns out he's a cousin of Kevin Molino. So we have a very cool reaction when we met him, gave him the jersey, and we hung out for almost the entire day. And it was great. And, maybe we'll do that with the other winners as well. So, Mark. Rondell, Guadalajara, and Monterrey is where... Yes, I remember seeing this when I was doing this earlier. I did spend 6 weeks in Monterrey. I'm a massive fan of Monterrey. I also like Cruz Azul. I made a great connection with them as well. Let me fix my live stream behind here. My beautiful screen for you all. So I spent some time in Monterrey. Rayados. I want to say a shout out to those people in Mexico. I have my jersey. I have a massive pile of jerseys here that you all can't see. That's on this side. It's a boatload. In fact, one of these days I've been asked to do a little tour of the studio. I have lots and lots and lots of jerseys, and a lot of people say they want to see my jersey collection. So I'll do that. So that definitely could favor Bolivia in terms of their thing as well. For Jamaica, I think they should be all right. So yeah. Where are we? I'm going to do a couple more. Congo is a team that will be very hard to beat by Ross. Correct. I said that. And, we'll probably have Thompson feet on. Former Trinidad Tobago coach who's now coaching there. I think he's coaching Mali right now, I think. Great guy for great insight. So we'll have him on. So Mark the Shark. Congo is a team not to be messed with. Also, what are your thoughts on Rudolph Spy being interim coach? I did mention that before, Mark, earlier in the stream. You know, for those of you, you could jump back to that where I mentioned in great detail. But from my consensus and my research, you know, it seems like he's not the ideal pick. He was probably a safe choice. I know there's some other Jamaican coaches as well. A lot of people are saying, I don't know why I can't remember his name right now. But, you know, they went with speed. A lot of Jamaicans say they're not happy with his style of play and how he does things. So it seems like the general consensus from the media and the people that they're not happy. From my research, it doesn't seem like the greatest choice. And, you know, I would love to hear Jamaicans who are more knowledgeable on the matter let me know. And I will do my research and give my thoughts. But it seems like the general consensus is that he's not the ideal choice. So, yeah. Omar Henry. So, TNT Jamaica not winning any of those games. I hope that's not true. You don't think they could defeat Caledonia? I hope they can. You know, we'll see. You know, those teams deserve to get there on merit. So, nothing is set in stone, so you're correct. Rising up. Hello, if Trinidad can't beat Bermuda at home, the coach have to go. No excuse for Yorke point blank. And I understand why you're saying that, Rising Up. I understand. And, you know, it's a result-oriented game. And to be fair, the performance was not great. And we should be beating teams like Bermuda. No respect. Bermuda, in fact, I think they gained a lot of experience and could come away happy from that game. You know, they were bottom of the group, but there were times where they played very well. So I understand that. This is a performance game. And, you know, like I said, there's the analyst in me. And like I said, respectfully, it's a result-oriented game. And the team, not just Dwight Yorke, should take a little bit of responsibility for that one. And it also does not take away from how Bermuda performed. So, you know, congratulations to Bermuda. Conrad Smith next to TS for Jamaica. I hope not. I hope that's not the case. Bert Ashton. Dwight definitely has to stay. So like I'm seeing conflicting opinions from people about Dwight Yorke. And feel free to let me know why. That's okay. There are no wrong answers here once it's respectful. Dwight definitely has to stay. 12 months is not enough to prepare a team for a World Cup. I always said I wish we hired him maybe a year before we hired him, but there was the changeover, the new president coming in. Angus Eve wasn't there, so the transition. You know, a lot of people are pro Angus, a lot of people are not, pro Dwight Yorke. So I think if he had more time, and I think it's a problem I have with the TTFA because we knew the pathway was going to be quote unquote easier. Not easy, but easier, where we didn't have to play the usual hex and all the Jamaicas and the USAs and the Costa Ricas who didn't make it to the World Cup, by the way. And, we still didn't make it. And there were some people within my circles who joked, if there's 8 spots, we'll come 9th. And I know that's a very cynical thing to say, but it turns out it wasn't inaccurate. So, you're right. I do understand that. From, us not getting enough preparation. Rondell, I don't like how he didn't play Levi in his preferred position. Clearly, he has a significant contribution when playing in that position. In nothing burger when playing as a striker. Yes, so Kenwin Jones spoke about that. And folks, you can check out that. The audio was a little bit choppy. I don't know what was going on with the internet. But Kenwin spoke about that in great detail when he came in studio. And we had one of the in-studio watch-alongs. And he mentioned that, ideally, everybody knows this. Levi's position in Ike Athens and wherever he played was on the right wing. He's devastating there. And I think, to be fair, they were trying to solve that problem with Obikbu, and then he tried Mitchell. And I thought we would have probably seen Mitchell in the last game, but apparently he was injured, according to the TTFA. So that is a problem. We are lacking number 9. So clearly that's an area they're trying to solve, and he tried to use that false 9 position. So Ronald, it switched up. Yeah, he did try some variations, because I think in the Bermuda game he pushed Levi out wide, and I can't remember how it was in the end. Actually, no, Nathaniel James, sorry, what am I saying? I get people's view on Yorke, but the man came in the middle of the campaign with little time and with little resources, and he still managed to improve the team. But we lacked a proper striker. I agree. I don't think he had the ideal time frame. I think the Unity Cup and playing the Gold Cup helped a lot, because I think under normal circumstances, it would have been very difficult for us to get friendlies. But I think that forced a lot of improvement with the national team. So, yeah. So Mark the Shark, I agree. Rondell, if we had an actual striker, i.e. if Yorke had not played Levi in that position, yes. I'm seeing that being repeated a lot in there. We definitely needed that number 9, and we didn't. And I think he tried a tactical thing, and, we did create chances, And Levi, he no disrespect to Levi, he's one of our best players, but his finishing did let him down in some key areas as well, and other players as well, not just him. Literally anybody in that position would have been better because he scored 0 goals. I understand your argument, I really do. So I actually don't disagree with that. But maybe one of these days we'll get an interview with Dwight Yorke because I have Shaka Hislop and all these people who are regular contributors. It'll be nice to have a sit down with Dwight Yorke. And folks, if you want that, like I said, make some noise in the stream and whatever, and let's make it happen. Because there's certain people who would try to argue, against me having that discussion with him. But why not? And it's going to be respectful. Maybe I could bring him in the studio. Why not? What do you think? A real discussion. Dwight Yorke, if you're listening to this, you and Russell and those guys, I've had the pleasure of meeting Russell before, and great guys. And like I said, let's have a discussion if he wants. So where am I? I did lose that. So Conrad Smith, he's the best chance you guys have now, Trinidad. So people outside Trinidad and Tobago do like him. I'm predicting Dwight will be headache for all teams. We fix a defense problem. We need to find 2 or 3 decent numbers. Yes, correct. So that's probably the next goal. And this is where your youth teams come into play, folks. This is where development comes in. It's not just about finding talent. It's about also creating talent for the future. And to me, this is where the technical directors have to identify our identity and all these things. So we have a pool of players to choose from, getting players back into the top leagues. Kind of like what USA did. I mean, the easy answer is money. And you do need money to run an organization, folks. And hopefully all the corrupt, selfish people who fill their pockets and go around drinking in the VIP section get out and let some real people come in there. So moving along. Mark, speaking facts. Bert Ashton. Rondell, which other team had 106 shots? What's worth 7 goals from 106 shots? Yeah. Our goal conversion was really poor. It was really poor. So like I said, I'm going to read a couple more. Josh, Rondell, KB. Well, James had a chance versus Bermuda and didn't impress at all. I would say Royal, Mitchell, or Hackford. And I was hoping I would have seen Mitchell. But clearly there was an injury. So Dwight Yorke, I guess, that was reported by the TTFA before the match. So he went with players who are naturally wide and attacking players, and of course you're going to get that. It's going to take time to adapt to the position. So like I said, Levi, while a capable player and capable of beating players, I think on another day and another time, those converted chances, if we converted those chances, what a different situation it would have been. Rising up, extra time, why are you backing Yorke? Too much excuses for them, coach, game over. Rising up, I understand why you're saying that. And rising up, let me know who you think should be the coach, who you think should be the next coach for Trinidad and Tobago. If you disagree about him staying, I would love to hear your thoughts. Let me know. Drexel Joseph, another loyal fan of Extra Time TV. I was watching the aftermath of the Jamaica Curaçao, and they went mental against the police. Yes, it was crazy. Jamaicans are passionate, and as Lance, I almost said Armstrong, Lance Whitaker said, the Jamaican fans sometimes turn on their team. Our fans just don't turn up to the stadium, but Jamaicans, they are passionate people. Conrad Smith, you guys can work it out. Keep him, Trini guys. You good, better future than Jamaica. And it's interesting, folks. Perception is a hell of a thing because, a lot of Trinidadians want to throw Dwight Yorke and his team under the bus, while a lot of people around the region, like Jamaica. Clearly in Jamaica, you guys like Dwight Yorke. Folks, in the Jamaicans in the live stream, would you all, if you had a choice between Steve McClaren and, of course, Rudolph right now versus Dwight Yorke, would you take Dwight Yorke in hindsight? I would love to hear that. So of course, there's some conversations going on. Renald Joseph, welcome. Rondell, I see you guys are having discussions in there, so I'm just going to go to the questions. Rondell said he didn't impress me overall, but neither did Levi playing that position. So yeah, I'm getting that more thing there. So I'm going to do like maybe 2 more questions in there as well. Wow, there's a lot of people. Listen, I really appreciate all these coming in. So I'm going to go from the bottom up now. We must have friendly matches from Kingsley Ledge. And yes, I agree. We need to have consistent, high-quality friendlies, but also the ability to learn from those friendlies, which I think Dwight Yorke has done. In the past, we would have friendlies, and we would always hit a narrative, well, it's been a learning experience. It's been a learning experience. And yes, it has, but then we don't see the aftermath from the learning. So, like sometimes we would lose games, and then, there was coaches where we would lose boatloads of games and you didn't see any progression. I'm okay, like if you're doing a friendly and you see an improvement and of course I want us to win all the time, but I'm okay if I see improvements in certain areas and where you could actually see it. Like in Trinidad and Tobago right now, we're seeing the improvements in the defense, midfield, possession, but, the goal scoring. But you're seeing an improvement, and that's important. And if you're not seeing that, then that's where you have to kind of raise eyebrows. Drexel, people think bring an international coach, we'd win, but it takes more than just coaching. It more to number 9. Yes, correct. So we've all identified that for sure. We have some smart fans in here. One player I hope that can get back into Europe, however, is Keston Julian. So I actually know Keston Julian personally. He lives in my area, and great quiet kid. We were supposed to have an interview. He was in Sheriff. He played that game against Real Madrid. And when we spoke, I ran into him. He said he's going back to Europe, so I will see if I can get an update on him. Promising left back. Injuries has been a problem for him, so we'll see how it goes. Rising up, Levi over on the ball, no timings yet. There were times where I think, and we were not calm inside the box. Sometimes, that first touch to beat players, so that composure was definitely lacking. And, we have to work on that. And we have to continue working on the other areas. It's not like we're set in those areas. We have to continue because, sometimes there might be an emphasis on the attacking and then the defense defaults. So you're correct. I agree with that. Mark the Shark, we know that we should keep Yorke, but what about the backroom staff? Should we keep them? So I think I like the analysts because the analysts seem to be doing a good job. Because obviously when a coaching staff, you have the head coach, you have the assistant coach, you have the goalkeeping coach, you have your analysts, which is something we've been lacking in Trinidad and Tobago football. I've been one for Kenwin. And, we have a lot of guys who are self-proclaimed analysts who are not analysts. It's different. These guys are, updated with modern day analytics and how to use data to, make the best decisions. And, that's what we need. And I don't know much about them, and I will try to get it. But clearly, I think they're okay. I don't know the entire staff, but we'll see. Rising up, Zinedine. Ron Julian, how about Ryan Telfer being the main center forward? I was surprised that we didn't try him. So maybe, listen, they see them in training, folks. So maybe in the training sessions, they were probably terrible. I don't know. But, that's an interesting suggestion. So going back up to rising up, Angus knows how to win. And, a lot of people had criticisms of Angus. Not me. I wasn't one of them. Where his style was very reactive, very defensive. And he's a self-proclaimed, pragmatic coach. I think maybe, sometimes, a little bit gets too much more on the talking side of the game. Because, if you take away that aspect, the results are great. And, now, a lot of people have been asking me, and we can't. The answer is we'll never know. I'm sounding like Kanye. I guess we'll never know. Would it have been different with Angus even? I don't know. But there's things about his football I did like. So like I said, folks, I think I'm going to wrap things up here. My voice is dying down. Let me know your thoughts on all the topics. This format. It's Saturday night, so I'm going to get some dinner right now. And let me know what you think about the channel. We'll be doing this weekly episode every week. I'll be doing a watch-along for the Inter Milan versus AC Milan game tomorrow, folks. I'm an Inter Milan fan, so I'm going to do that because we do have international viewers and we're expanding. So like I said, don't forget to like, subscribe, share. Scan the QR code that you're seeing over here, where you can get EXTV merch delivered globally, wherever you are. It's going to get to you, so you can check that out. It helps the channel. It also helps charities. Also, there's donation options, memberships where you can get exclusive content to interviews, first takes on content, gaming content, and a whole bunch of different exclusive interviews that you don't normally get. We're not just a watch-along channel, folks. And of course, we'll continue to do the EXTV live once you continue to support it. Your support is extremely important. We're all very close to the 3,000 subscriber mark. So, folks, if you're not subscribing, check it out. And also, like I said, follow us on the socials. Follow me at Andre Soklal on Instagram. You could also, if you want to play, we could actually do a live match. How about that, folks? On EAFC. If you want to play me, we can. Maybe in studio, maybe live stream. We have one with Kevin Molino. We have one with James Saunders. And, we'll see who else we can get on. This guy, Sheldon Bateau, said he wants to play me. Kari Pierre from TKR, well, formerly of TKR, says he wants to play me as well. So what do you think about that? So, folks, like I said, we'll be having the episodes every week. We'll be having the topics on this side chosen by you all, but also the Q&A segment. I'll commit to 30 minutes and a lot of minutes to the actual interactions with the fans. And it's been an absolute pleasure having everybody on, folks. Folks, I'd like to say this has been a very exciting last couple of months for EXTV, and everybody in here who has been supporting the channel. Like I said, continue to support. This is long-form content, and we'll continue to do this. So every week, folks, feel free to give your thoughts, comments, suggestions, support the channel, like, subscribe, scan the QR codes, head over to the EXTV merch store. So check out extvmedia.com. We have a lot of interesting takes on topics, and we'll continue to evolve and listen to what you have to say. You all have a lot of say on this channel, folks. And to everybody throughout the Caribbean, all over the world that has been supporting Extra Time TV, we'll be doing the Inter Milan versus AC Milan watch along tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. Hopefully, I don't have any technical glitches. So with that being said, folks, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for watching. And, you know, before I go, I want to say a special thank you to Mitra and Sportway for supplying the prize for Mark Molina. We'll be having other giveaways as well. So, folks, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for watching. And I'll see you for the next watch along, which is tomorrow. And we'll be having our weekly episodes. And like I said, folks, if you have any comments, thoughts, and suggestions, you can put them in the stream, or you could head over to extvmedia.com on the socials and let me know what you think, or email at extratimetvtt@gmail.com. Plus, we have jerseys as well. I have a couple leftover Trinidad Tobago jerseys that I got. If anybody wants to buy them, let me know. Let me know. So with that being said, folks, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I'll be seeing you all for the next episode. Take care.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching Extra Time TV. Don't forget to like and subscribe.